It's time to talk for real. It's time to have a serious chat. This episode is long ado. This episode is a long due, but it is necessary. Um, I have a platform as a black man, so I will use my platform to speak on issues. I usually don't even speak about issues like this. My issues are definitely more happier and nicer sounding than this, but because this issue directly affects me, I'm going to speak on it. Welcome back to the Fabricated podcast. I'm your host, Fabrice Fouangi. Actual name Fabrice Fouangi. But today, there's some things we got to address. There's some things we got to talk about because this is actually like just unacceptable. These social issues affect me as a man, and so I'm gonna go ahead and get straight into it. I'm not gonna waste your time. I want to remember George Floyd. Rest in peace, George Floyd. Rest in peace, Breonna Taylor. Rest in peace, Ahmaud Arbery. Rest in peace, Trayvon Martin. It's basically rest in peace to all the black kings and queens that have been murdered and basically acts of violence for over nothing. Basically, the black skin is so precious, and it sucks that it took us to 2020, a year where there's a pandemic and the deaths of Kobe Bryant and others, to actually realize that our skin is this valuable. And I don't want to speak on it too much because I pride myself as an educated person, and I'm consciously woke, and to be consciously woke in America is basically to be in constant range all the time. And so I don't want to talk about that. I get too emotional over that, but I want to talk about the systemic changes that need to happen effective immediately for us to even see the face of in light of day. These issues affect me as a man. I'm not an athlete. I'm not a rapper. I don't sing like that. Like I said, I pride myself in being educated. So I consider myself above average, or even just when it comes to common knowledge and understanding, you know what I'm saying? I'm a nerd, if you will. So that means that me not being a rapper or me not having this easy way to make millions, I have to work my way through white corporate America. And so these issues will have to come in. And that's why I demand systemic changes. I would put it out there. Before I continue, if you want to help, people came to me before multiple times asking how they might help. Or I always tell y'all, educate yourself. Educate yourself on the issues of like Black Wall Street. Educate yourself on more than just black culture for once. You know what I'm saying? Just educate yourself. That's the biggest change we could have, possibly. But these are systemic changes I want to happen. I only have 5. I'm not gonna lie to you, I only have 5. I don't have the time to talk about. I don't have the time or emotions or mental state to talk about all the changes that could happen. But these are probably the big ones. We got to start with corporate America. Corporate America, you know what I'm talking about. These businesses, these big names, the ones that own all the corporations and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely hard. Like I said, I have to work through corporate America. I have to go with my education. I love learning. I got my associates in my high school diploma at 16. I love learning. That should tell you something about me, right? But it's not fair that I know that for a fact that eventually when I do work hard, they will get to a point where I want a certain job and the color of my skin might affect the outcome of that job. You understand what I'm saying? That's not fair to me, nor to anyone with my skin color or any person of color to be denied or judged based on the color of the skin if they're looking for a certain job. That's not even fair at all. The way I look, I'm 6'6". I'm a black man. In any room, I just look imposing. I look threatening or whatever. Somebody once said, the only thing scarier to a white man than one black person is 2 black people. I think that's a fact. And so me walking into corporate America with my stature and just me looking imposing can be a threat. I don't want it to be you know what I'm saying? If you know me personally, you know who I am. I'm nice, essentially. Why does the way I look have to affect the places I have to go to or I get to be in? That doesn't make any sense. It's not fair to me. You understand what I'm saying? So I think that should change. I think that should change big time. I think the hair of black people's hair should be more allowed in corporate America. For instance, like, you know, let's say you're me, right? And you have a one. So went to your barber shop, you ask for a one. Basically, that means that you basically shave everything, but you have the beard and then you fade the sides or whatever. Maybe you have waves, right? Let's say you get your job. Let's say you're applying for your resume. You put your picture on there. You're like, oh, I don't know why you would do that, but you apply anyway. Somebody might look at the color of your skin and be like, oh, he's darker skin. Oh, we don't really want him. But let's say we do want him. We'll take him in. Okay, cool. Congratulations, you got the job. But now let's say that you apply and you have dreads a little bit. You got twists, kind of like my stuff. You know what I'm saying? They're twisted. You sponge your hair, whatever the situation is. Chances are you're now less likely to get the job than if you had waves. Let's say you are a Rastaman and you have all these dreads coming down. You are now less likely than me or the person before to get the job. That doesn't make any sense. It's not fair. Systemic changes need to happen there. That shouldn't affect the way I succeed in life, if you understand my point. You understand? You get what I'm saying? Before I go on, specifically me, you know, I'm blessed. I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm really blessed. I was raised with a loving mother and a loving father. They raised me right. Right? And then they worked hard. So basically we've been well off. You understand what I'm saying? So it sucks that whenever the higher up you go into certain social things, the less colored people you start to see. It sucks. It sucks that the neighborhood I get to live in depicts that. You know what I'm saying? Because I lived in a nicer neighborhood than most, I get to be around the white kids more. It sucks that because of gerrymandering and all these little. The second thing I would like to change, that should change systemically, is police academy. This is a big one. Let me get into this one. So it takes about 4 to 5 months of training in the police academy to get your police academy. And it probably takes like an extra month after that to get your police license. So basically, it takes you about 6 months max to complete the police academy and get out there and be an actual police officer. Think about that, 6 months max. That means you complete, police officers enforce the law. That means that you're telling me that in 6 months, you can get trained to learn the law, master the law, and you actually are allowed to go out there and enforce the law. Whereas if I want to be a lawyer, I have to go to school for 7 years. And then after that, I get to actually just practice the law. Think about that. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. That's why whenever you go out there as cops, you see these cops out here making these judgments, they don't know what they're doing. The requirement is simply just a high school diploma. And when you look at their resumes, most of them are fuck-ups. They didn't get to go to college. They didn't want to. They just go into the police academy and be a police officer because that's the easiest career they can do right after. That's not fair. You can't tell me in 6 months that you've learned the law and you're able to go out in public and enforce it. I think one solution to this should be, it should require an associate's degree, because if people that don't know, to do an associate's degree, you have to take extra college courses, bare minimum. So English 1301, 1302, and another science class. And the key part here being government classes. You get to take 2 of those, government 1 and 2. I think it's like 23 something. That would teach them more about the law and how they should improve. And I think that should be a necessary requirement. And if you want to move any further and become like a police chief, you should require like a bachelor's. There needs to be more time in the academy. 6 months. You cannot possibly tell me that it took you 6 months to master the law. That doesn't make any sense. God damn, it doesn't make any goddamn sense at all. The next systemic change that should happen is that we need to actually hold our police accountable. Big time. Big time. When a cop does an action, he should be held accountable for that action. The people always say, "Oh yeah, well he has a body cam, so we can see what he did." Well, not all the time. They can turn that off. You ever seen? Do you know the amount of cases that you see and hear that a cop pulled somebody over and then now he killed the person, but then the person was resisting arrest? Do you always hear that all the time? Yeah, he's not being held accountable. Resisting arrest literally takes that out of the things, and he's back out there in the field doing the same shit. You understand what I'm saying? That's not fair. That's not fair at all. And so I think that should change big time. One politician proposed, I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Bernie Sanders or I don't know if it was Andrew. Was it? I don't remember who it was. But basically he said that it should have a group or association above the police. So basically like the FBI, right? It should create a group or like an assembly, like a classification between the law that basically is specifically refined to oversee actions that cops do. Therefore, they're the ones that are responsible to make sure that justice is made when a cop does the wrong decisions or right decisions or whatever. You know what I'm saying? They oversee cop procedures and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's a great idea. I think that we should do that. Have somebody oversee the cops, because cops are not being here's what sucks. Let's say I'm in, I don't know, let's name a small city, Paris, Texas. A cop in Paris, Texas knows not only the lawyer in Paris, Texas, but he knows the attorney in Paris, Texas. He knows probably every single law-related person in there. They have connections. So whenever he does something, he says something that doesn't like, God forbid it's a bad cop, he can literally manipulate any information and get away with his will. You understand what I'm saying? And so that doesn't make him accountable. He's now basically abusing his power as a cop. You know what I'm saying? And so that there's multiple small cities like that where cops know the lawyers and the attorneys and all that kind of stuff. So that needs to change. There needs to be an oversight seer. Like public relations in law enforcement shouldn't be that way. And so another big one, marijuana. I think the law on marijuana should change because there's too many people of color that get incarcerated for marijuana. And when you look at it in 2020, when the laws are changing across certain number of states, it just doesn't make any sense. And if you do your research, you realize that most of the convictions and sentences don't even match the crime. They're not even coherent. Like they don't. If you ever get the chance to hang around people who have homies that have been to jail, they will tell you the stories and they'll tell you the terms. Like, it'll be like, I heard a story. One of my homies said that one of his friends said basically his homie got caught dealing weed and he basically served 5 years in jail. And it's like, come on, man. Really? These are just like the small systemic change that could happen. And then we got that president, you know what I'm saying? Finally, it's clearly a race issue. It wouldn't be anything else. It's clearly a race issue. There's no way a black man can be murdered over an alleged forging of a check. He could just be murdered on the scene. Whereas a dude can go and murder and shoot up a school and murder multiple people, and he'll still get the chance to see the day of light. Come on now. Where does that make sense? Growing up, I was usually, the darker one in my school. I was one of the few black people in my high school. I was one of the few black people, you know what I'm saying, in most activities that I wanted to exert myself in, whether they were nerd activities. And it sucks that whenever people give you these looks when you walk into these things, and they're like, wow, sometimes it's like, why is he here? That's what they feel, you know what I'm saying? And there's no way that just that feeling of just being like the outcast almost when you walk into scenarios like that is not fair. Like, you know what I'm saying? It sucks that the more you get educated as well, the less people of color you see, because we simply not given that access. And so it's really hard. And I think that, once I make my way through corporate America, I think I will empower as many, many, many black people that I can. I mean, you guys have seen it already with this podcast. I've already had multiple black skin on this podcast. I have more coming probably this next episode. All I do is empower people of color to go up. Even if I have a white person on here, I will know those people and empower them as well and reach up. But right now, it's really about us as black folks. Funny story. My experience with all this. Me and my homies was once chilling in the whip, and we had got home from we was all just chill cruising and everything, just having a good time. We had came home, but when we pulled up in our neighborhood, our little area, it's like a gated community. When we pulled up in there, it smelled like weed in the whole neighborhood. Pretty much like a mile around the neighborhood, it smelled like that. But we was all just chilling in the car, we was talking, having a chat, and then the cops pulled up. I mean, keep in mind it's like what, 1 a.m. probably. Our car lights are off and everything. But the neighborhood, that wasn't a cop, it was a security guard. You know what I'm saying? And he pulls up. He's like, roll down your window. He flashing the flashlight at me and everything because I'm the one driving. And he's like, roll down your window. I said, how you doing, officer? What's the matter? He said, what are you guys doing tonight? I said, we just chilling. And then he says, I could smell it. I said, damn. That's not what we doing, sir. You know what I'm saying? And then we decided to tell him the truth. I said, damn, because so he assumed it was us automatically. And in the whip, keep in mind, it's me, one of my white homies, pretty cool, down-to-earth dude, and then my two other close black friends of mine, you know what I'm saying? And then we had to tell him straight up. I told him straight up what we was doing. I said, me and my homies, we all chilling here because the homie in the back is actually trying to decide whether he's waiting for his girl to message him back to see if he gonna lay the pipe tonight or not. We had to tell him straight up. We couldn't make up no lies because then we have to lie again. Once you lie once, you gotta lie more after that. We told him straight up, my homie's about to lay the pipe. We want to see what's up. And then he said, if you go, better strap up. And he was being genuinely kind and was being funny with the whole situation. But imagine that was a cop, you know what I'm saying? They would have been like, step out of your vehicle, let me search the car, and then would have had that whole entourage and stuff. But it's just little things like that that night went our way, you know what I'm saying? What if it didn't? You know what I'm saying? George Floyd could have been me. That could have been my uncle. That could have been, you know what I'm saying, a black brother of mine, a black friend. I hate to talk about these things, but they have to be mentioned. And so there's a great article, I'll leave it in the comments, descriptions, or whatever, called Reflections on the Color of My Skin. I'll put the author somewhere on the screen. I forget his name, but I think it's a great read. You should educate yourself on that. Either way, that's been enough for me, enough ranting. More fun podcast episodes coming soon. I promise. I'm just really, I got to speak on it. I got a platform, so I got to speak on it as a black man. But more dope episodes coming soon. Remember, not everything you hear online is fabricated.